everyone. My name is Emmanuella. I'm here with my mother today. Welcome to our podcast. Our podcast is called Mother and Daughters Chat, where we will be talking about life experiences, culture, and a few different things that just relate to how we have maneuvered through society, through adaptations, and a bunch of different things. We are West African of background, from the Ivory Coast to be specific, and I've been here for most of my life. I came here when I was 7, and my mother, of course, has been here longer than I have. She'll introduce herself in just a little bit. But we will be doing this podcast weekly, so we hope you can tune in. And yeah, Mom, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah, and I'm Emma's mom, like she said. I'm from Africa. It's not my background, it's me. I'm from Africa. I'm African from the west of Africa. My country is Ivory Coast, la Côte d'Ivoire. Bonjour à tous les Ivoiriens. Voilà. So I'm saying hi to my people. That's the way it is. But yes, so we're going to meet on the weekly basis, and we'll be talking about several things, things that affect every families. My daughter and I, we had a certain relationship. We went through situations, and we think that this podcast will help many family members, and some mom, some teenagers, some married women, some grown up, a grown girl or boys, help them understand how we maneuver through these difficult times, and how we became who we are today, and how our relationship is where it is. We used to fight.
Not anymore.
Okay, so welcome to our podcast, and we
Well
hope
said.
that every week you'll be ready for a new show.
Yes, well said.
So what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about culture. We're going to talk about differences in culture, American versus African culture. And yeah, we're going to talk about a clash of cultures and just a few different topics that we'll touch on as we go through our conversation. But yeah, where do you want to start?
Well, clash of cultures.
Okay.
I think for me, coming from Africa, there's always a clash of culture. When we first come to America, we don't know what is awaiting us in this country.
Yeah.
We see America on TV. We see the cowboys on the horses. We watch those shows, Dynasty, Dallas, and we have this dream that we are going to the perfect land. And then you come here and you can't even find any okra. When I first came to America, I couldn't find okra. I was lost.
Yeah.
I couldn't find pepper to make my spicy food.
Now you know where everything is.
Now I know. And with time, America adjusted to the cultures too, because I remember it was so hard to find African stores. But now it's like everywhere, you go everywhere. And I think they also allow the African stores to carry most of our foods.
Yeah.
So it's easier today. And it's good for us because it helps us keep our children in the culture.
Yes.
Because I feed my kids with African food,
Yeah.
which is really healthy and good. And by the way, remember when the doctor said I have no disease?
Oh my Lord.
And you were shocked? I had the perfect blood pressure. I have the perfect labs.
So
That's
I'll never
because
hear
of
the end
African
of it.
food.
Oh my goodness. But speaking of children and kind of like keeping your children in the culture, how do you think that's been for you as a mother? Like, has it been easy or hard to ground your kids in the Ivorian, African, West African culture? And how did you do it? Like,
Well, I was a typical African mother raising American children. It is so difficult for African parents because when we are sending our children to school, we don't even expect the children to adapt
Yeah.
and to make American friends. and to live according to the American standard and mindset. So we have these kids that we send to a school. We want them to be African. So I had one thing that was hard for me was to hear one of my kids say, "Oh, my parents are from West Africa. I'm from America." I'm like, what are you saying? What do you mean by you're from America? You're not from America. You're from Africa.
Yeah.
That shows that it's difficult to understand that these poor kids come to America. They jump into a culture that they don't know. Thank God they adjust. They learn the language and they speak better English. And so now they have a problem finding themselves. So for me, it was hard because I come from Africa where you correct children by beating them sometimes. When a child goes overboard, you have to give them a spank. And it's nothing compared to what you see some crazy parents do in America. Lock them up in the closet and beat the child, throw them in the basement. No, but the parent will give you a little correction. So for
they
me,
don't do that in Africa. You have some parents who do that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like some parents are crazy. So if you love your child, if you love your child, you can't lock up your child in the closet just in the name of correcting them.
Yeah, that's true.
You can ground the child. I remember my father taking away my breakfast money for a while just to teach me a lesson. And I came, I said, "Daddy, I'm sorry." He said, "Why are you sorry for?" I said, "Because, and he said, "Okay. So now that you apologize, it's wrong. I'm gonna give your money back to you." So there are ways to teach children to do the right thing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't easy for me, and they have to call you in the school. You have to go to the school. It was not easy.
Yeah.
The kids talk back at you. Sometimes you feel like give them a big slap, but you can't.
Yeah.
So you're like. You're lucky put 911 is around the corner. We all feel that way. No parents will lie about it. Sometimes we feel like, I wish I could beat this one. Well, some parents do.
Yeah.
And if the police don't see them, that's okay. But at the same time, I think that, giving a child a spank is not always bad. So, it's not always bad. But when it becomes regular, that's your point of leverage on the child, then you lost control of that child. If you think that you should beat your child to make the child respect you, then you lost control. Then you're not doing a good parenting. There are different ages, so you have to consider every different step that the child goes through. So it's two things: the parents and the children. We are going through our own trouble, and the kids is adjusting to America. So
you touched on a lot of good things. I think it's so funny because you said that the kids don't even know like what they're jumping into, and I think in the same way, parents don't know what they're jumping into when they're bringing their kids here into America, and a lot of the bias of like what America is, and like African parents tend to they know the reality of like what can happen if their child comes to America, but I don't think they really take the time to like know the American culture. So when, at least for me growing up, it was very, very like hard, right? Because I grew up in America, and even when I go back home, they're like, "You're American," and I'm like, "I'm West African," but I'm in America, and it's like, "You're African," and I'm like, "Okay, I don't know if I'm African or if I'm American, like which one am I?" Depending on where I go, I'm either American or African. But it was hard to find like that, like my identity here, because the truth is we're both, right? We're both African and we're both American. We're not just one thing, because we are merging two different cultures together.
That's right.
So I think that African parents too, sometimes they want you to be one thing. They want to make sure you stay African, but there has to be an adaptation and realizing like that's never going to happen. Once you immerse your child in another culture, they're never going to just be that one thing. They're going to have to be a mix of two. So you have to find the leveling of how you're going to helpfully help them become a mix of these two that keeps them grounded in the principles that you want, which are the African principles, and keeps them, but also allows them to get through life in America within the American culture. I always say like and I always say I'm not sure if I'm remembering this wrong because you never know. But I feel like I mean for me I always tell my friends I never got spanked growing up because I don't think I did. I don't think I did. I think you talked a lot and you screamed a lot, but you never put like your hands on us. Like I mean for me, you tried your hardest not to physically like touch us, and I think that was like a big thing that helped too. And I think it was so funny. I remember one time, and I could be making things up. I'm not sure, but I remember one time you spanked me for doing something, and I think you spanked Rita too for doing something. And then it was almost like you were gonna start crying when we were crying because you spanked us. And then I was like, and I always remember that, and I'm like, it's so funny because the one time my mom tried to spank me, she almost started crying, and she never really spanked me. She just kind of like yelled at me, and I think that's an important thing for African parents to kind of like grasp onto and understand because you can install fear in your children, but then that fear never goes away, right? So then when they become older, they can't have that relationship with you because they're afraid of you, you know? But if you install like a thing of disappointment, then it's like, wow, I don't want to disappoint like my mom. Oh my God, I'm disappointing my mom. Oh my God, I feel so bad for letting my mother down or my parent down. So then it makes that child like want to do better in a sense, or feel like, okay, I need to correct this over time because I don't want to disappoint, you know? So it's something that I think African parents too like.
Well, I think my advantage in this is that I was a teacher back home, and as a high school teacher, my attitude was completely different from the attitude that was going on in the country.
Yeah.
My students were kind of my friends, because I figure out if my student can relay to me whatever they feel, or if they can trust me, that I'm not judging them, then I'm sure I can solve their problems. So, and I was not teaching children, I was teaching high school, 11 and 12 grades. So these people were preparing to enter adulthood, to go to university. So I was free to talk about sexual relationship, to talk about their love lives, their failures, whatever they didn't succeed. And I think that I carry that with me until today. The problem is this: when we talk about clash and the culture, that's exactly what it is. Many African parents don't realize it. It's not easy to become American. It is not. No. Not after you spend 20, 30 years in Africa and you come here. Number one thing, the biggest sign, I can't speak like an American. My tongue is already... My tongue has already been twisted by my language.
Yes.
And I love my language.
Yeah.
And I love my accent. But it's also frustrating, on the other hand, when people hear you talk and say, oh, are you from Haiti?
Yeah.
Are you from Jamaica? I'm like, excuse me, I don't sound like Asian at all. I don't sound like Jamaican. Just to laugh. But it's frustrating to us too, to adjust to America. But for the parents, you know, when we bring kids here, there are different steps in the child's life. And some parents don't see it. Your child is growing up, and there are changes in the child's body, and the child's psychology, and everything, even the emotions. So if you continue to see your child as a child that you can just restrain, it's gonna clash. There is a time for everything. So there's a time where you are to be the mother. I mean, if my child is 5 years old, I'm not going to give that child anything they ask for. Because that child is a child.
Yes.
My child is, my kid is in high school. That kid is preparing to enter adult life.
But not there yet.
Not yet, but they're mixing up with people already who know too much, maybe more than you taught them. So that's why it's also dangerous to like, how do I say this? To keep the children in a restrictive area, environment where you don't let them do this, do that, don't go there, don't do this, do. I was harsh when you guys were little. No sleepover. Because you know why?
Yeah.
I was judging the American culture. And I have to be truthful.
Yeah.
I said to myself, Americans are crazy. I
Yes.
don't want my child to go to any person's house and hear gunshots or somebody is killing somebody. So, and those are my favorite shows. So it twisted my mind. So I'm sorry, guys. Americans are sweet people. But I'm just saying that's how I used to think until, you know, now the kids are grown, and so the parents are also suffering at the same time as the kids, but the parents have more responsibility to make this transition soft for the child. In the African culture, the parent is always right, which is wrong. In the African culture, you don't talk back at your parents. But it's not the same over here. So if you don't understand that, you would see your child as disrespectful. You talking to me like that? I'm your mom. You know?
We're speaking from experience, you guys, because this was us growing up all through my life. Like, I'm very independent and opinionated, and to me, it's like if something happens, I want to explain myself. I want you to understand where I'm coming from. I want you to see my point of view. But when my mom would say something, it'd be like, no, that's it. No more saying it. I've said what I said. No more talking. No talking back. I don't want to hear. You're disrespectful. And it's not even just her. It's African culture.
Yes.
That's what we're taught. And I learned this thing when I grew up is you can only pass down to your children what you've been given, right?
Exactly.
And it takes a special parent to take the initiative to go beyond what they've learned and learn even more. And like I always like commend my mom for this because I feel like she's done that. She's taken the initiative to go beyond and learn a little bit more than what she was given, because you have to adapt as as time goes on. But there are still some things that you learn from your own culture that you are just bound to carry. And it's not just me. I would talk to all my African cousins and it's like, yeah, that's disrespectful. And I'm like, no, it's not. I'm not yelling at her. I'm not insulting her. I'm not screaming at her. I'm not rolling my eyes. I just want to say my piece. Like, why is that disrespectful? And it's so funny because when she says that's not always a good thing, I honestly feel that. I feel like it's not always a good thing because what happens is you end up suppressing your child's emotions and it just keeps building and building, and that builds resentment, that builds anger and frustration, that makes it difficult for that child to be able to voice things to you, but also even to other people, because if you have to understand, like, you're nurturing minds, right? So if you're teaching your 10-year-old or 11-year-old, like, no, that's it, what I say is final and nothing else, when they go out into the world and they're in school and they're in high school and they're dealing with other people, they don't learn how to have an opinion or a voice of their own. They only learn to, okay, that's it. Whatever they say is what it is, you know?
Yeah.
And that makes it hard for them to navigate life in general. And so, like, I was very stubborn, man. And I kept pushing. I never stopped. I was like, no. And I don't know.
And, the child will run away from the house and trust the friends.
Yes.
And then you see how many children end up in drugs because the parents are not listening to them.
Yes.
There's no conversation between the parents and the kids. It's Africans have the how do you call this, I don't know if that word exists, chief wood or whatever wood, like where you have a king and you have the subject, and so the father is the king, after the father it's the mother, and then the oldest brother has authority. So as we go up the rank, if you're unlucky to be the last born, you're dead. Everybody will boss you around in the house and you don't have a voice. Maybe the only thing is that because you're the youngest one, mom will protect you. But I grew up with a father who taught me what I taught you guys. My father was very strict when I was young. He was telling me, I don't want you to get pregnant. I don't want you to mingle with boys. So he was strict. But then when I started going to university, my dad was just like, okay. Now he was talking to us like friends. So he just shift the relationship from father-children to best friends. So, and he was the first one to initiate that. He will tell us about his experiences.
Yeah.
You know, some relationship that did not work. He will make fun of it, and then so we felt comfortable telling everything to daddy because he was telling us. We thought
Yeah.
that he was telling us that he was telling us exactly that he was telling us everything, but he told us he drew us closer to him by using that friendship relationship. And your child is looking for that. When the parent is too strict, the child will go outside. The child will find friends outside, or even confined in the friend's mother, because don't forget, children compare.
Yes.
They compare the parents to the friend's parent.
Yes.
They go to the friend's house, and then the mom say, "Oh, hi, sweetie." Words that we don't use. Not always.
Yeah.
It's even hard for us to say "I love you" from Africa. You know, we don't use certain words.
Yeah.
Maybe now it's different because the
Yes.
new generation has learned a lot. But people who were from background of 1960, 1950, you don't hear the word "I love you" much. You know, and I told her one time, I said, listen, you need to stop this "I love you" business that you see on Disney. When I work double to put food on your table, that's the proof that I love you. When I don't sleep at night, you're sleeping, you have nice clothes, that's the sign of my love. So, I love you, that's just hypocrisy. That's how I solved that situation. But I mean, now it's different. You know,
I love you.
I love you more. Now I can say I love you easy. They taught me too. You know, and I wasn't sure about this "I love you" in American culture. They say "I love you," then after they do bad things. So I'm not sure they really love each other. That was a problem for me too.
But it's not just you though. I think that's, like you said, it's the culture. It's not even just you, because so many of my friends and I have had these conversations, and it's like, that's just the culture. You know, you go to your mom like "I love you, mommy." She's like, please get out of here. You're tiring me. Please, please, please. Enough of this nonsense. And it's just, that's just what it is. And like, it's so funny because in America they're like, and you have to find balance. There's a balance. You don't want to be that parent that just enables your child to just do whatever they want.
No.
But you don't want to be that parent that like is so strict that your child feels like, oh my God, I can't breathe. So it's like, that's the hardest part, is finding the balance, because all of our parents, they mean well and they love us. And obviously if your parent's gonna work their butt off and struggle and bring you here to America, that's not easy. Being an immigrant child, an immigrant parent, is not an easy thing to do. So obviously they love you by doing that. But I think, like she said, when we come here and we see it on TV, especially if you come here young, you see it on TV, you see your friends, maybe your friend tells you "love you," and you're like, oh, love you too? And then you get used to it, and now you want to bring it home, and it's just like, where did you get this from? I don't, please go away. So it's so interesting, and it's just finding like being able to adapt, being able to understand. I think there's a lack of understanding when it comes a lot of times between parent and child, and you have to understand your child. You have to understand your parents. Like, parents are human beings, and they're gonna make mistakes. Like, they're still learning, and they're gonna learn as long as they're willing to learn. You don't just shut your parent out because
and
you feel
be honest about their mistakes.
Yeah. And children, we're human beings too. We make a lot of mistakes, it's our parents who are guiding us and teaching us and helping us maneuver our ways through. So being able to understand and understanding your child, because just like children compare, parents compare too. And they're comparing like, this one, her child is going to Harvard. Why aren't you going to school? Go to school now. Why don't you want to go to school? No, I'm bringing you here. This was her favorite
to
line.
Be doctor.
I'm bringing you here. You have to be a doctor.
Yes.
You have to be a lawyer.
Yes.
I'm like, I want to be a singer.
Or a judge.
You want to be a what? That's a hobby. And it's so funny because you have to understand your child. And the biggest thing is, like, depending on who you are, I was kind of rebellious. I'm not rebellious, but I was kind of rebellious.
She went and she did the music.
I want to do my music.
And then now she came back. Now she's normal.
I'm crying. It was more when she said like no, that I was like, I'm gonna prove you wrong. You can do it, and I will do it. And I'm not even sure it was what I wanted to do. I just wanted to prove her wrong. But it's just like being able to understand each other and understand your child. Like, okay, I'm gonna allow my child to make these mistakes, and I'm gonna, when I turn, like, it's funny what she says, like, don't it was never like, oh, I was not her friend when we were growing up. Okay,
No.
I'm your parent. I'm not your friend. I'm not your friend. You are my child, not your friend. But when I got to like being 19 years old, it was like I felt a lot freer. Don't get me like, there's always gonna be that parental advice and that parental, like, you know, telling you like what is right and wrong, but there was a lot more freedom to maneuver my way through life after 19. And I think we had that conversation like not too long ago, and she said, well, after you get to a certain point, there's nothing more I can do. You're an adult, you know.
Yeah.
That's for you to decide. Like, I'm just here now after a certain point. But when I was younger, because I said to her, I was like, yeah, but now you're my best friend. And she was like, yeah, because now you're an adult. Before you were a child. I can't be your best friend when you're a child. And it's true. So balance and understanding.
So the last thing I want to say is, just some hint to parents. If you see your child who becomes rebellious and is telling you things, don't say no.
Yeah.
Because once you say no,
Yeah.
that rebellious attitude will come surface.
Yeah.
So yes, mommy, I want to do this. Of course, honey, you can do it. Just believe me, that child will come back and not do it again. I'm not interested. I want to go to the movies. Okay, who are you going with? That's fine. I just need to know who you're going with. Guess what? That child will turn around, because the what the child is looking for is to see if you're going to give them some room to breathe. You're going to allow them to be who they are, to love what they love, and to be with people that are their friends, people who are meaningful to them. But when you say no, 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 that child becomes angry, and the rebellious attitude is just the expression of that anger. So I will tell you, it's not easy to be a good parent. Like she said, if your child is a child, treat them as a child. Don't give them too much freedom. If your child is an adult, treat them as an adult. Give them some freedom, give them responsibilities, make them feel themselves, make them feel trusted and loved. It's very important.
Yeah.
Okay?
Absolutely.
I think we said most of it.
Yeah, I think so too.
We'll come back again next week for
more.
For another interesting. Don't miss the next
topic.
one. Don't mix the next
we'll
one.
Put all our information in the comments below in the bio.
Yes.
And you guys can feel free to
make
follow
sure to subscribe to our channel.
Yes.
Make sure to click the little bell so you can receive every new podcast that we put on YouTube.
Yes.
And don't forget to comment on our videos, and subscribe, and come and share your experiences with us too.
Yes, please.
Okay?
Thank you.
God bless you.
Good job, girl.
Bye.